Even then,
and,
readied.
And then
Alan Chasley,
then
and Von Lewis,
Dr. Von
and
Lewis.
John Compton, and George Charlton have been the most readied.
Because of what? Your years in politics?
Because my experience, my ministerial experience, based on ministerial experience, I've been the most readied. What people who become Prime Minister of St. Lucia have been the most readied of all of them.
So again, you were ready now, then you were
Readied.
ready then,
Yes.
Dr. Anthony, even then.
Even then,
And,
readied.
And then
Alan Chasley,
then
and Von
then
Lewis,
Dr. Von
and
Lewis.
John Compton, and George Charlton have been the most readied.
Because of what? Your years in politics?
Because my experience, my ministerial experience, based on ministerial experience, I've been the most readied. What people who become Prime Minister of St. Lucia have been the most readied of all of them.
So again, you were ready now, then you were
Readied.
ready then,
Yes.
Dr. Anthony, even then.
Even then,
And,
readied.
And then
Alan Chasley,
then
and Von
then
Lewis,
Dr. Von
and
Lewis.
John Compton, and George Charlton have been the most readied.
Because of what? Your years in politics?
Because my experience, my ministerial experience, based on ministerial experience, I've been the most readied. What people who become Prime Minister of St. Lucia have been the most readied of all of them.
So again, you were ready now, then you were
Readied.
ready then,
Yes.
Dr. Anthony, even then.
Even then,
And,
readied.
And then
Alan Chasley,
then
and Von
then
Lewis,
Dr. Von
and
Lewis.
John Compton, and George Charlton have been the most readied.
Because of what? Your years in politics?
Because my experience, my ministerial experience, St. Lucia, have been the most readied.
If I'm convinced that any of my ministers is doing anything that is injurious to St. Lucia by word or deed, I will call them up. If I believe that any of my ministers is doing, I'll say it again, injurious to the people of the country, I will pull them up.
Because my experience, my ministerial experience, based on ministerial experience, I've been the most ready.
If there have been any instances where the country's resources have been, to use a wrong word, stolen, justice must be done. Must be done. And justice should be done if there are any signs that the country's money was not used properly.
What people who become Prime Minister of St. Lucia have been the most readied.
If I'm convinced that any of my ministers is doing anything that is injurious to St. Lucia by word or deed, I will call them up. If I believe that any of my ministers is doing, I'll say it again, injurious to the people of the country, I will pull them up.
Because my experience, my ministerial experience, based on ministerial experience, I've been the most ready.
If there have been any instances where the country's resources have been, to use a wrong word, stolen, justice must be done. Must be done. And justice should be done if there are any signs that the country's money was not used properly.
What people who become Prime Minister of St. Lucia have been the most readied.
If I'm convinced that any of my ministers is doing anything that is injurious to St. Lucia by word or deed, I will call them up. If I believe that any of my ministers,
based on ministerial experience, I've been the most ready. What people who become Prime Minister of St. Lucia have been the most readied of all of them.
So again, you were ready now, then you were
Readied.
ready then,
Yes.
Dr. Anthony, even then.
Even then,
And,
readied.
And then
Alan Chasley,
then
and Von
then
Lewis,
Dr. Von
and
Lewis.
John Compton, and George Charlton have been the most readied.
Because of what? Your years in politics?
Because my experience, my ministerial experience, based on ministerial experience, I've been the most ready. What people who become Prime Minister of St. Lucia have been the most readied of all of them.
So again, you you were ready now than you were
Readied.
ready then,
Yes.
Dr. Anthony, even then.
Even then,
And,
ready.
and then
What people become Prime Minister of St. Lucia have been the most readied. What people become Prime Minister of St. Lucia have been what people become Prime Minister of St. Lucia have been the most readied of all of them.
So again, you were ready now than you were
Readied.
ready then,
Yes.
Dr. Anthony, even then.
Even then,
And,
readied.
and then
And Alan Chasley,
then
and Von
then
Lewis,
Dr. Von
and
Lewis.
John Compton, and George Charlton of them have been the most readied.
Because of what? Your years in politics?
Because my experience, my ministerial experience, based on ministerial experience, I've been the most ready.
I, Philip Joseph here,
I would like to be judged as being the Prime Minister, not being judged as being part of a government.
Came into government that we had a manifesto and a vision and mission that had been approved by my party, by the highest body.
Basel 11 has not been in existence. 50 was
Giant getting bazooka. You spraying big on to knock out mosquitoes.
I have never had a joint account with anybody in my life. Not my ex-wife, not my children, nobody. And I will refer that to the privileges committee.
What about the culture of people getting into office and not being effective in terms
What
of
people become Prime Minister of St. Lucia have been the most ready.
Let's do it this Wednesday, because if it's Wednesday, it's NewsMaker Live.
Good evening, welcome to another edition of NewsMaker Live on DBS Television. We are also on Facebook. My name is Timothy Poleon. We go up until 10 o'clock this evening, at which time we'll be concluding with the clip that peaked. I have a special guest in studio. We hope it will be a wide-ranging interview, but we'll focus on agriculture. And of course, there is a critical question I'll be posing to him at some point during the course of this program. My guest is former Agriculture Minister, former Chairman of the United Workers' Party, former MP for Babino, Mr. Ezechiel Joseph. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening to you, Tim, and thank you very much for inviting me. And I'll say good evening to your listeners.
And viewers.
And I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Thank you so much
Viewers.
for gracing us with your presence, sir.
Thank you very much. It took some time to invite me, but I'm happy to be here.
Okay. Thank you so much for accepting nonetheless, sir.
No problem.
Okay. Let's talk about agriculture. It's very, very important, and it's definitely, as far as some people are concerned, an area that has been ignored for too long by our governments. Let's look at it from the perspective of the appointment of Lisa Joseph to serve in the post, Lisa Jawayer, sorry, to serve in the post of Agriculture Minister and replacing Mr. Alfred Prosper. What say you to this?
You call her Lisa Joseph, right? I remembered I went to a funeral at the Balata Adventist Church and they called me Ezekiel Reynolds.
Okay.
But yeah, as far as that question is concerned, I'm not the one to make a determination as to who should be a minister in any government. I've never been prime minister. It's the prime minister to make that determination. But I can say that Alfred Prosper, Honorable Alfred Prosper, I worked with him as chief agricultural extension officer. He as a forestry officer. I worked with him as the minister, and he was the chief forestry officer at the time. So when you look at the two, he has the experience, he has the knowledge, and he knows his way about as it pertains to agriculture. Putting someone in the ministry, and according to the Prime Minister, she wanted a hard ministry, and the Ministry of Agriculture is a hard ministry. It's a technical ministry, because you need to know the technical aspect of agriculture. It's not somebody that just come around and think that they can get their way around. I felt, when I heard that, I was very disappointed as one who is interested in agriculture and I'm still practicing as a farmer. I felt that moving Prosper and putting Lisa, who have no experience as it pertains to agriculture, demonstrates to us as farmers and to St. Lucians that the government, the St. Lucia Labour Party government, had no interest in agriculture. Because for us as farmers, and from my own experience, you would want someone who can interact with the staff and give advice and direction as to policies. And I do believe that she has that experience. When it comes to communication, yes, she has the experience when it comes to communication. When it comes to agriculture, it's a science, and you need to appreciate the technologies that you would be given advice to. So I think it was a wrong decision.
But Mr. Cassius Elias, as far as I'm aware, they don't have a background in agriculture.
No, Cassius Elias had a background in agriculture.
Okay.
He had a background in agriculture. He was a practicing farmer. Okay, so that's totally different to Lisa.
So being a practicing farmer, that alone should qualify you?
No, but I mean at least you can see the difference. Because a practicing farmer, you would have the experience as to what the challenges the farmer face with. You would have some knowledge as to what would be the requirements and support farmers would need. That's different from someone who have no experience in agriculture to come to agriculture.
But aren't there technical personnel in the Ministry of Agriculture who would guide her along?
Well, and that is what I'm picking up, Tim. I'm picking up that she wants to micromanage, all right? And if you speak to a number of staff members, which I have spoken to and they have called me, telling me they're very dissatisfied, they are very demotivated, the advice has not been adhered to. She wants to make sure everything passes through her desk. Let me give you an example. There's some farmers who want to buy from the Taiwanese now ground cover. Ground cover is something used to cover the ground and to be able to manage weeds. When I was Minister of Agriculture, that's nothing new. When I was Minister of Agriculture, we worked with the Taiwanese government to bring on a number of inputs. I never got involved in determining what price that these products should be sold to farmers. Never. All I said, look, make sure there's no big profit as far as it's concerned. Let's sell it to the farmers at affordable prices. But the determination as far as the prices were concerned was done with my technical staff and the Taiwanese. Now I'm hearing the farmers telling me, look, they want to buy ground cover, and they were told that the minister have the information on her desk and she want to determine the price. Come on. Delaying the process. I'm hearing that every news item that needs to leave the ministry has to go through her. Come on. You're supposed to set the policies, which of course I do believe she can anyway, because she doesn't have the experience. But listen to your staff members, and I'm sure I will come to the situation with the cattle problems in St. Lucia, right? Because I sent her advice as far as the cattle problems is concerned. We'll come to the agro-processing situation, which I heard she made pronouncement on the market step as it pertains to what she intends to do as it pertains to agro-processing. And that's why I'm here today, because I'm sending information through her staff members to her. Because let me say something, Tim. Whilst my party is not in government, and I never use the word power, not in government, I believe as St. Lucians, as much as you can give advice, you give advice to whoever it is that is there. Ezechiel and myself work very closely. Cassius Elias and myself work very closely, right? So it's a matter of we sharing our experiences and our advice to each other. But is that happening now? The answer is no. So I do believe that was a good decision as far as agriculture is concerned. In fact, I heard the Prime Minister said she have to move her high heels and put her boots, you know, and she wanted to have ministry. That's not justification to have someone in the Ministry of Agriculture because they want to have ministry. I think they should have left Prosper there, or there should be some other person that could take on the Ministry of Agriculture. Musa, you know, could take on the Ministry of Agriculture. But it is what it is.
As far as your experience goes, what goes into putting a cabinet together? Would you have worked alongside Mr. Alan Chasney in putting the cabinet together, or was that his exclusive preserve or responsibility as Prime Minister? Did you have an input?
But I didn't have an input. I mean, before an elections, you would given certain responsibility to speak on certain issues, to research certain issues.
So it's like the shadow minister.
And that would give you an indication as to which ministry, after you have won, that the Prime Minister might so decide to allow you to work in. Okay, but as far as in my experience, I've never been involved sitting down with any Prime Minister, be it Sir John Compton or Stephen King or Honorable Alan Chasney, to determine what is the composition of a cabinet. Of course, everybody see me as the Minister of Agriculture, right? Even Sir John, when he approached me in 2006 and tried to convince me, which he did, to get involved in agriculture, his words to me was, Ezechiel, I'm coming back at my age. I want somebody who can run and not crawl. And you tell me you're not getting involved in agriculture. You're not coming back. You're not coming to work with me and to run the Babno seat and to get to guide the agricultural ministry. And that was what convinced me. I mean, Sir John, the person Sir John is, had that level of confidence in you, you know, because I worked in the Ministry of Agriculture. I had the opportunity to go to many budget meetings with Ira Duvey, Ferdinand Henry, at the time, to the Ministry of Finance, and to meet the Minister of Finance, who of course at the time was Sir John. So he would have that knowledge of my output, my intervention, my requirements, and how I would view things. So that's how I got involved. But to sit down with the Prime Minister at the time and say, okay, that is the cabinet, I never had that experience.
But I'm sure that something would have inspired Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre to select Ms. Jarayer to serve as Agriculture Minister, considering it's a very important ministry. You have agriculture, education, tourism, finance, infrastructure. To me, those are the core ministries in any administration. So there should have been something behind that to rationalize his decision. And maybe he got advice from certain elements within the party to appoint Ms. Lucia Jarayer to the post of Agriculture Minister.
And you want me to answer that? I can't answer that. I mean, I'm not wrong to be able to answer that question. All I'm saying to you, I believe that, because
I'm just trying. I'm trying my utmost to rationalize
all what he said. All what he said during the appointment of the honourable minister is that she said she wanted a hard ministry, and he's given her a hard ministry. That's all what he said. Right. So I'm not in a position to determine what would have influenced him to make that determination.
But does anyone determine whether they want a hard ministry or a soft ministry? You know, I mean, in your experience, again, ministers don't determine which ministry they want.
Well, he said so. So I will only repeat what he said. He said she asked him for a hard ministry, and he's given her the Ministry of Agriculture as a hard ministry.
7 to 8 months later, what advice would you have for the Prime Minister regarding his selection of Lucia Jarayer to serve in that position?
Well, let me go back a bit. When we lost the elections in 2021, there were a number of ongoing projects that we started. I'm sure persons would remember when we came in 2016, we moved the production of bananas from 8,000 tons to 14,000 tons. When we lost the elections in 2021, we were still exporting bananas to the UK at 14,000 tons. We had a number of projects helping, assisting our farmers. Where are we now with the production of bananas? What I'm gathering based on the 2025 Economic and Social Review, we are at 4,000 tons. So we are moved from 14 average to 4,000 tons. So it shows that the reduction in production as far as the Senatorial Labour Party is concerned. So that we should raise a red flag for the Prime Minister to say, look, there is a situation that I have to deal with a reduction in banana production, which means a reduction in revenue in the rural communities. Okay? We started what we call the 7 crops program. I must say they continue with it for a number of at least 2-3 years. The intention, and I'm going to answer your question. I'm just telling you what we started, what they formed. We started the 7 crops program. I must say they continue, Prosper and the Labour Party at the time continue with it. And the intention was to reduce the importation of these 7 crops because we believe as a government that we support to the respective farmers that we could have reduced the importation of these crops. All right? When we did the review, we realized we were importing about $6 to $8 million of these crops every year. So we thought it was an opportunity for the 7 crops program to continue. The question is, where are we with the 7 crops program? And the intention is after these 7 crops, we would have added on other crops as we, as years go by, and we are successful with the 7 crops. We went to Volet from Lucia. We moved from 30 acres to 100 acres in Volet, and that's what I was very much interested in when all that saga and all that discussion as to the agro-processing plant, the meat processing plant and the horse racing track. I was getting 100 acres at Volet compared to 30 acres at Buseju. And the intention, Timmy, and I can call you Timmy, you know who you used to call you Timmy, right?
Yes, yeah.
The intention was, heritage, we have more agricultural land with the whole aspect of climate change, right? As a government, as a ministry, we would have to do a lot of research with crops and livestock to at least educate our farmers. So we'd have taken the responsibility to do the research, and based on the success of the research, we would have educated our farmers as to, technologies that will enable them to be able to produce and realize returns. In fact, there's nothing new, because I can say when I came into agriculture in the 70s, Union Agricultural Station was a research station with Calix George and Sir Calix George, Sir Calix George and Cyril Matthews and Mr. Von Well and Egbert Sinclair, Albert Sinclair, all these persons who were involved in research. So we had to continue that, especially now we face with climate change and all these high temperatures, less water, for irrigation and things like that. That's what they formed. All right? They formed 3 agro-processing facilities. And I heard a lot of things saying about, oh boy, no government have done nothing for agro-processing. That's incorrect. My government of the United Workers' Party, before we demit office in 2011, had constructed 2 agro-processing facilities, one in Fonhasso and one in Alger. And when I came back in 2016, we built another one in Fonhasso for the rural women. And I'm hoping we could discuss that, because I'm hearing that is the intention of the government to build an agro-processing facility in cul-de-sac at the RRDC, and I want to advise against that.
So you could continue along those lines. Yeah, you could speak on it right now.
I can speak on it right
now?
Yes. Okay. We have right now 3 facilities closed 2 at Fonhasso and 1 at Angers. Okay? I don't believe the 4th one will help the situation. We have a number of individuals who are involved in agro-processing. All right? My advice to the minister, whatever money she have right now, is to give support to individuals that might be interested in managing these facilities. Because in the case of Fonhasso, when we started it before we demit office in 2011, the intention was for the St. Lucia Marketing Board to manage it. But of course we lost in 2011. A new government came in under Musa. When we came back in 2016, it was closed. All right? Here it is, we have an existing facility. We have the St. Lucia Marketing Board. Right? We have persons who are interested in managing the facility in Fonhasso. Do an assessment of the facility and at least open up some tendering process of interest as to whoever might be interested in running the facility, and identify someone to manage the facility. So whatever resources you have right now, at least you'll give support to that individual. We have another one in Fonhasso that was built for the women cluster of Babono. It's closed. What the challenges are, I don't know, but it's closed. And likewise at Angers, I must say the Angers one started well. The ladies there were producing chocolate that already reached the London market. But for whatever reason, we lost elections and that has not continued. In addition to that team, we have a number of individuals who are doing agro-processing at the cottage level. Because, let me tell you, when I'm hearing to build factories and build more factories, the reality is, and we have to understand that, our production level does not allow us to have standalone factories for mangoes or for grapefruit or for oranges, because each of these crops would have specific machinery for them, and the production level that we have in St. Lucia would not allow us to invest in these bits and pieces of machine. I can give you an example. When I was chairman of Coconut Growers, I went to a world conference with the general manager, and we got a piece of machine that could process 75,000, I was the smallest machine, 75,000 nuts a day. Very cheap, $1 million. We could afford it. But the question is the logistics. Was it economical to bring it down, to bring dry coconuts from all the way from Babono or all the way from Angers, all the way to Soufrière? It's going to be very costly. So I'm saying that for us to have standalone equipment is not direction that we should go. We should support as much as possible those persons who are now doing agro-processing. Because, for example, packaging material is very expensive, right? So if you have persons doing what you call the production, and you tie in that production with St. Lucia Marketing Board. So you're producing banana flour, I producing banana flour, someone's producing breadfruit flour. We produce it, meet the quality, we bring it to my St. Lucia Marketing Board. St. Lucia Marketing Board do the packaging and do the marketing. And you live in that field. Promotion is very expensive, packaging material is very expensive. So what we need, because of our smallness in production and our level of production as far as crops is concerned, we can't have standalone factories. So I believe I would want to advise the minister to reconsider the intention to build another factory in Cul-de-sac. I don't know where she have $1 million. I would want to advise her to reconsider building another factory in Cul-de-sac. I want to advise her, meet with her technical staff, listen to her technical staff, listen to the persons involved in the whole aspect of agro-processing, liaise with the Ministry of Commerce, Manufacturing, do a survey as to the number of persons who are involved in agro-processing, and give support to these individuals, and use the St. Lucia Marketing Board as a central marketing unit. a central marketing entity. So those persons who are already involved in the agro-processing at the cottage level can get further support, all right, to be able to manufacture the necessary products that they're involved with and sell to the marketing board. And the marketing board can do the promotion, they can do the packaging. Of course, quality is also important. Of course, they would have to put quality standards as to what are the requirements for you to bring in breadfruit flour. What are the requirements for you to bring plantain flour? What are the requirements for you to bring in the pulps? All right, and then the marketing board will be the hub to sell these things to, and they can at least package it and do the promotion. And that's my advice.
But why do you think along the way we have not made sufficient progress as far as that sector you just make reference to, in terms of ensuring that it becomes something that is viable, something that is successful?
I don't think there are a lot of support have been given to we have not concentrated a lot in any meaningful way to support agro-processors.
Yeah, but right? we import those items from Barbados, we import from Trinidad. You don't see the need to do our...
Well, I'm saying, but let me tell you, I never import from Trinidad. I went to Jamaica, and I have a friend guy studying in Jamaica. I had a friend who was working at Trottle, manufacturing juices and things like that. And he took me to the factory. You know, even in Jamaica, that had acres and acres of citrus, I had to import from Miami to be able to sustain the production that they are doing. I don't know what's happening in Barbados. So what I'm saying that whilst we import, and cost of production is also important, because electricity is very high, water has gone up, and I hope we can discuss that sometime. Right? Packaging material for small producers is very high. That's what I'm saying. Let's look at the opportunities that exist right now as far as those persons who are involved in agro-processing, and let's see how we can identify who doing what and what our support that you can give them, so at least they can continue production. Because to move mangoes from, let's say, Saltibus to Cul-de-sac is very expensive. But if you have someone in Saltibus doing the pulping the mangoes and meeting the quality and bring it up for you, it's cheaper. And of course you create employment right there in Saltibus. So I'm just using another example. So I believe I heard her and the intention to build another processing plant in Cul-de-sac. I would advise her on that.
The earlier question I pointed to you regarding what advice would you give the Prime Minister with regard to the appointment of the Agriculture Minister 7 months after.
You pay me a consultancy team?
I will try to fill that bit. I will try.
I don't know. I mean, the Prime Minister, according to him, he is what? We can read him.
It's a mystery.
A mystery. He would know the reasons why he appointed the Honorable Minister in that position. I'm sure he would be getting from the ministry staff and also from farmers what the concerns are, and he would make that determination. I don't know what's the reason for moving Prosper, or even moving Honorable Musa and put him in health and put Prosper in agriculture. All right, because Musa is more qualified than Prosper when it comes to agriculture, because people believe that if you go, Prosper is forestry. All right, forestry is totally different to agriculture. All right, agriculture is a science by itself, and Honorable Musa is trained in agriculture. He was trained in Jamaica. So moving him and putting him in health, to my mind, putting Prosper in agriculture, I don't know what was the thinking behind it. But to advise him, he would be the one to make a determination team. I will not be one to advise him. All I'm saying that the vibes on the ground is not positive, and if he is seriously about the development of agriculture, he would make the necessary reshuffling to make sure that whatever whatever period they remain as government, that whoever he put there would be able to impact positively on the agricultural sector.
While we continue to identify the problem of huge food import bill annually of about $1.5 billion, we identify the problem, but yet still we have not done anything sufficiently to bring this under some level of control. Why do you think that this problem it's proving to be insurmountable as far as our ability to deal with it? Administration after administration.
You see, no, I wouldn't say administration because we started the 7 Crops program. So we started doing something. When people speak about a high food import bill, I ask the question, have you done the analysis and see what is it that we are importing vis-a-vis what is it that we can grow locally? All right? That's important. Because the high food import bill will tell you that the number of things that have been imported cannot be grown locally, commercially. Let's look at one example, carrots. We can grow carrots in St. Lucia commercially. We can grow carrots for a little backyard thing to sell by the market and things like that. But with the level of carrots that's been consumed in St. Lucia, we cannot grow. Irish potatoes. We try Irish potatoes. We were not successful, right? That's why...
In those 2 areas, why you think we're not successful?
Because the level of production, the cost of production, and the land space we have, we are small. Our agriculture is very small in nature. We don't have vast acres of agricultural land. We can use machinery. I mean, the lands we have that's flat in Cul-de-sac and in Roseau and in Mabia Valley, what's happening to it right now? Right? What's happening? Going into other areas outside of agriculture, and that's very much concerning. Right, but
don't we have a land use policy?
That don't have teeth. I've sat in the Ministry of Agriculture getting requirements for approval or disapproval from the respective ministry, and will disapprove. And when it goes to the ministry, it's approved. Right. So, as far as that is concerned, the process is flawed. Okay, you'll see after you pass, you'll see, okay, I never give approval, but you'll see the construction taking place. So yes, we have the policy, but who is responsible in final analysis to implement the policy? Not the Ministry of Agriculture.
Therefore, that would count as being among the problems for that difficulty that we continue to experience. Well, our inability to feed ourselves.
Well, I'm hoping we don't reach that stage. All right, I hope you know what I said, but I'm coming back to the food import bill, and that's when we did the analysis, Tim. At the time when we did the analysis, we saw, okay, these 7 crops importing about $6 to $8 million. We can at least assist our farmers in reducing the importation of these 7 crops. And the intention was after these 7 crops, we will include other crops, because these 7 crops were what they call traditional crops. All right, but I don't know where we are at with this. So when I hear about our high food import bill, one have to understand, look, we have one of our major industries, tourism, and we can produce the sticks, we can produce the high-end cuts that they would want to serve at the hotels, and these are what would impact the food import bill. But when you look at the things we can produce in St. Lucia, it's very small as far as importation is concerned.
So then, that is not an issue.
What's that?
The high food import bill is not an issue.
I will not say it's not an issue. I will say if we can, from what we can produce, that's what we started with the 7 crops, let's capitalize on these 7 crops. Because as long as we have, and that's where I must say, and I could say tonight, that I was very comfortable working with Honorable Alan Shastney as Minister of Tourism and also the Prime Minister, because he understood and appreciated the linkages between agriculture and tourism. And he gave the fullest support when he was Minister of Tourism, and myself, go into the hotels and say, look, these are the things we can produce. All right? Give support to our local farmers. And what we can produce, we'll allow the importation. And in fact, we're even looking at putting a tariff on the things we could produce, a higher tariff on the things we could have produced, to discourage the importers from importing them. And if they imported them, at least we'll get some revenue from them. And the things we could not produce, to have a lower tariff. And that was the thinking, all right? To at least support our production, local production. So when I'm hearing we have a high food import bill, we have to do the analysis as to what is it that would cause our high food import bill, especially when you look at most of the things that have been imported is gravitating towards the tourism industry.
Okay, so you don't think we have a problem locally, but regionally, as far as CARICOM is concerned, we do have a problem, because there is this initiative set in the first instance, 25% reduction by the year 2025. This has come and we're not able to meet that particular commitment now up to 2030. So definitely you cannot deny that we don't have an issue when it comes to a youth food import bill at the level of CARICOM. What accounts for that problem at the regional level?
See, CARICOM, and I'm happy to bring that up. One of our major challenges in CARICOM is transportation, internal transportation. I remembered a study was done by the OECS looking at transportation within the region as far as agricultural produce is concerned, and it's not profitable. All right. With that study, what they're saying is going to be, or what would have made it profitable was also to transport passengers. But I don't know, we never went forward with it. So one of our major challenges is transportation, because there will be times when we will sit down at meetings and we'll have overproduction of a certain crop, and we would not, all right? And how we will get from St. Vincent to St. Lucia, right, is a challenge. Even Guyana, you hear a lot about Guyana, right? Is there a reliable transportation system? Is there a reliable transportation system from Guyana to St. Lucia? No. Okay. So one of our major challenge in the region is how we move around with the level of produce that's been overproduced in one country to the next. It's easier to get produce coming from out of Miami, right, to St. Lucia, than to get something from St. Vincent to St. Lucia, or from Dominica to St. Lucia.
On the political front, I'm sure you've been monitoring what has been happening politically with regard to the St. Lucia Social Development Fund and the allegations that are swirling, regarding the parading of checks, SSDF checks, on social media, and then calls for the resignation of the housing minister, Mr. Richard Frederick. That issue, how do you believe that the Prime Minister should attend to it? Because he has basically put it in the hands of the police and he's awaiting a report. Although apart from the SSDF issue, there's some other issues that we will not get into because those remain allegations. How do you expect the Prime Minister to deal with this?
What did the Prime Minister put in the hands of the police? Is the SSDF matter, or is it the other things we don't want to get involved in?
The other issue, yeah.
Because the police cannot get involved in the SSDF matter, right? I know my colleague Sarah has been in the forefront, and also Laura has been in the forefront. I'm pushing for, and also my political leader, even before that issue came out, wrote to the Prime Minister as it pertains to the SSDF and to do an investigation. How I would have handled it is not how the Prime Minister is handling it. How I would have handled it is to call the Minister in and to tell him, look, there is need for you to go on leave from your position. Let me do an investigation as to all the allegations, and following the investigation, depends on the outcome of the investigation, I will make a determination whether you come back or not. All right? The question is, can he do that?
But he has gone on leave. He's on
well,
vacation.
when I say leave, well, I don't mean for vacation.
Okay. You'd relieve him
from his position. Yeah. I'm not talking about vacation leave and for him to come back. When he's come back at the end of August, I'm not referring to that. I'm saying you will leave. I remove you from your position, and let me do the investigation. An independent review committee to do the investigation. And following that, depending on the outcome, then I will make a determination whether you come back or not. But the question I'm asking, not you, but the general question I'm asking, can he do that? Because we're hearing that there are a number of other individuals who are implicated, not in his case, directly in his case, but a number of other individuals who are implicated as far as the utilization of SSDF funds at largesse, right? So is it a situation where I am going to discipline one individual, or is it a situation where I have to discipline a number of other individuals? So that's the challenge he have based on what I'm hearing. So that's my advice, and that's how I would have handled it, right? The other matter, which has been investigated by the police, is for the police to investigate. In fact, I'm hearing, and I'm going to bring it up, Tim, if you allow me. I'm hearing that Sarah is asking questions, where was she when the allegation was made against me with the Compton lady, Jan.
But before you get into that, we'll actually play the clip of Miss Janine Compton-Antoine making the allegation against you publicly on a platform that's in 2016. And let's listen to Mrs. Janine Compton-Antoine making that allegation against you in the year 2016.
No problem.
I went to see the former Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Ezechiel Joseph, because this constituency is a farming constituency, and I went to see him to help the constituency. I went to see him about projects. I knew Ezechiel long before, because when I was going to university, he was also going to the same university, and I thought he was my friend. And I am talking to the man, and the man is chatting me. So I wondering what is going on. So I keep telling him, let us talk about Mikunov and the farmers and all the problems that they have. He keeps coming back to the same topic. When I saw that nothing was happening, I said, I will leave now. Got up to leave. This is in the Ministry of Agriculture, the government buildings. The man grabbed me. He tried to take off my shirt and tried to kiss me.
You just heard the allegation made there by Mrs. Antoine.
I've heard it a number of times, and I think I want to deal with it head on, okay? Because whatever Sarah is doing, the asking her that question, where was she when that allegation was made? Whatever Laura Japierre is doing, they ask her that question, where was she when that allegation was made? But let me see. My disappointment in all that, Tim, is when Sir John approached me to consider running the Babono seat. I told Sir John, I'm not getting involved in politics because politics is too nasty, it's too dirty. And his response to me was, Ezechiel, politics is not dirty and nasty. We make it dirty and nasty. That was his response to me. And that's my disappointment. Right? Because when Janelle make that allegation on the platform 5 or 6 years after she retired from the party. When she retired from the party, I'm sure you would remember what she said. She said she was retiring from the party because the party had lost its way. She retired from the party because a number of individuals were rogues. All right? They were doing things that she was not happy with. Okay? She never brought that as a reason why she retired from the party. The question is, why now? Why 5 years afterwards you would come on a platform and make an allegation like this? Why you never said to the public that I try and rape you, or I try and chop your shirt, or I try and kiss you, when on 2 or 3 occasions you came to my Babono office on a Saturday afternoon when you came from Barbados to get review on Richard Frederick, when King sent you to Barbados to get review on Richard Frederick, and you came to my office to report to me what you found out in Barbados, I never try and rape you in my Barbono office. Why you never use the Barbono office as a place where I try and rape you, where I try and kiss you? Why you never use it? Why is the Ministry of Agriculture? And you walk up from my office in the Ministry of Agriculture, I try and chop your shirt, I try and kiss you, and my staff members never realize that you ruffle up in my office. You know, I find I was very disappointed. I'm very disappointed, and like I said, we still together in Reading. And there's a lot I can say about Jean in Reading as far as her behavior. I'll not go down that route. Okay, I'll not go down that route. Okay, but what I would, like I said on the platform in 2016, because when Sarah was approached at that time, she said that warrant an investigation. That was her position. All right, so don't come and right now say where was she, because when she was approached by the media, she said it warrant an investigation. Laura Japierre called me on many occasions, questioning me about that matter, and had her own spin about it, as because she had a talk show at that time, Laura Japierre, right? So they're now going to bring this thing up, and I was never in government when it happened. Okay, I ran the elections after it happened, and I won the elections handsomely. But like I said on the platform in 2016, after I won, I forgive her, and I still forgive her. All right, because I don't know why she would have done something like that, but afterwards, it's clear. You know who I've not forgiven? I'm going to mention names tonight. I've not forgiven Alvina Reynolds. Okay? Because that was the reason why this plot was made. It was brought to my attention, Tim, and that's why I'm saying it's a nasty game. It was brought to my attention that at a meeting of the St. Lucia Labour Party in Barbono, that's where the plot was made. Aldrich, who was Alvina's attaché, went to a young lady in Font-Assor and tried to convince her to make a public statement how I am trying and rape her. Aldrich.
But we can't prove that.
I'm telling you what I know. Okay?
But would you have the evidence to back this up?
The young lady?
Would you have the evidence to back this up?
I'm telling you what I know, and I can mention him who called me and told him to
what you heard.
Okay?
Yeah,
what was told to me.
Okay.
Right? If it's not true, you could say it's not true.
Yeah.
Right? I'm telling you what I know. Okay? The young lady says she's not going to do it. That's why I'm mentioning names tonight. Let them come out and say it's not true.
But we have to be extremely careful, because we don't want to be the subject of any kind of litigation.
Well, they go bring me to court. Right? I'm ready to go to court. They said it was not true. So that's why I've never forgiven Alvina. Right? Because why? When I ran the 2011 elections, I got a dossier from the Ministry of Education about this lady. All right? Which I could use on a platform. I never used it. I felt it's not necessary. I discuss the issues. And that's what I always done on the platform. I discuss the issues. Okay? So, for you to bring up a story like that, and I can mention more names,
But don't, because we're not in a position. No, we're not in a position to prove anything. But let me ask you, what do you think, sir? What do you think would motivate Mrs. Antoine to have made that allegation against
you? I've never met her.
Let's put it this way. Something must have happened. Nothing at all happened?
No, I've never met her. I've never met her after that announcement, face to face, to answer that question. I've never met her. Right? I wouldn't know from her what would have motivated her to be so brave, right? To go on a platform 5 years after you said you left the party because the party has lost its way and things like that, and now to come and say, I try and rape you. Why you never say I try and rape you in the Barbono office when you came there 2 or 3 times when you came from Barbados to tell me about Richard Fredericks and what you found about Richard Fredericks? Why?
Do you think that there was some kind of physical interaction that would have misled her? Maybe you hugged her?
Where?
Maybe you kissed her on the cheek?
Where?
No, but you see, because to me, I mean, why would she manufacture this?
But Tim, I'm just telling you.
I'm just saying something would have motivated it. Maybe you, I don't know. I don't know what would have caused that.
I'm just telling you what the reason, what would have caused it. They tried to get a young lady in for her, so to say that I tried, and she said she's not going to do it. So I want to find out from Jean, once I've forgiven her, what would have motivated her to make something like that when she knew I have so much strings of water in Reading?
Why didn't you take legal action against her? Because, I mean, that's character assassination. Yeah, and this certainly has lived on for a while, even now. 2026, it's still being discussed.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a dead issue, but it's living on, right? Because when the Prime Minister mentioned it in Parliament, when he was defending the police officer, all right? The Prime Minister mentioned in Parliament when he was defending the police officer. When Richard Frederick, who's now a subject of whatever is going to be investigated, and that's why I'm saying I would not hold whatever is being said about Richard Frederick until the investigation is finished, because I've talked from my experience, okay? We look at what happened to Baltas, all right? And Baltas was not fired because of that. I want to make that clear. Baltas was actually resigned for another matter. Baltas was not fired because of that, okay? So I'm saying all these things to say that, look, to answer you, I never, it happened just before elections. I won the elections, and I went straight into government, and I thought this would be a dead issue. Because I said on the platform in Dirisu, when I spoke, I forgive her. All right? And I thought, but it's not going away. But I believe at some point in time, good sense will prevail, and they would say, look, that was an elections gimmick. And I give them that opportunity.
So again, that's something that she manufactured.
Of course, they manufactured it. But I said so when I was interviewed before the elections, when the press came to me. I told her I'm not guilty about this thing. Because, Tim, why would I try and rip you and chop your shit at the Ministry of Agriculture, and you're going out and my secretary is next to the door, and where's the evidence? Why she didn't say I try and rip any ministry at Babono? That would have carried more weight, because the question is what you will do in Babono on a Saturday afternoon in my office. That would be the question that we asked. So she used the Ministry of Agriculture. But that ain't making sense. Think about it.
But does it bother you that there are people who might give credence to that allegation?
Of course it bothers me. Of course. Why? I'm human, you know. Especially when you're being accused for something you never did. You know, it bothers me. But what can I do? Last time I spoke to a lawyer, told me it has passed the limitations. When I saw Richards brought it up on his show, tell me it has passed its limitation. I could have taken it up earlier, but it will be her words against mine, all right? Because if I try and cheer up your top, where's the tone top, all right? So I just was a waste of time, especially when her father told me, well, boys, we make it bad, we make it nasty, and that's what came to my mind. I say, wow, watch who of all persons, you know, would have make a statement like that. And when I told Sir John I was not getting involved because of this, well, of course it bothers me. I will not sit down there and say it doesn't bother me. It bothers me, because there are people who believe and the people who don't believe. All right? And it's the fact that knowing you're not guilty, all right, and knowing where the plot started and who responsible, I told you I have not forgiven. I've forgiven her, because let me tell you, I remembered when her matter came up in cabinet for National Trust. I took a natural position. I took an independent position. I said, I'm not going to support, I'm not going to give support, I'm not going to deny. And I said, why? To my cabinet colleague. All right? But the truth is, I've never seen her face to face to ask her, why you did something like that? Like I said, we were friends. And there's a lot I did to support her in Reading.
What do you mean in Reading?
In the University of Reading, where I was doing my master's and she was doing her master's in London. That's why I first got to meet her. There's a lot I did to support her. When she came back as minister, and she came in, there's a lot I did to support her. I find it strange she would have done something like that.
You ever had an intimate relationship?
No. We're just friends.
Yeah. You're watching Newsmaker Live right here on DBS Television. Still to come, your calls, so please stay with the broadcast. My guest is former Agriculture Minister, former MP for Babonneau, Mr. Ezechiel Joseph. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're watching Newsmaker Live. Later, in just a moment, we'll be taking your calls, so please stand by for that. But let's focus on the United Workers' Party and it having suffered this massive defeat at the polls. And you'll be given the opportunity to conduct a review to determine what really transpired. What have you discovered? Are you in a position to tell us what you have discovered thus far?
I don't think I would want to, at least at this point in time, speak to the public as to what what the committee has discovered. It's not me. I'm heading a committee of 3 individuals who was given that responsibility to do a review. We had an independent, a number of individuals who came to do the review, people who were not involved in the elections at all, to do the review. I have since gotten a report, and we are going to meet as a committee to examine the report and to meet with the political leader, first of all, to discuss with him what the outcome of the report, and following that, I will meet with the national executive, if given the opportunity, to at least discuss the report with them, because I believe in moving forward and making changes and trying to restructure the party. People have to understand and appreciate what the challenges are, which of course the review spoke to, and for us to not bury our heads in the sand, Tim, to really start the process of restructuring the party. Because you listen to the Prime Minister and I take the Prime Minister very seriously. Right? Listen to the Prime Minister on the platform on the market step and say, if you get me vexed, I'll call elections. I take that very seriously. What we don't have the handle, what we have is the blade. And in other words, if we pull, we get cut. If he pull, we get cut. I'm just using a phrase there. What we have is to start organizing our party. Because when you look at from 2016, the support for the party has declined every elections. So which means our party is suffering from something. And that's what the review would tell us when we look at it. What are the challenges? What is it that our party is suffering from? And we can't bury it our way in the sun. We have to look at the reality and accept the reality and make the changes that would allow us to be the preferred political party, as our mission alluded to, right? So where we are at right now, as far as the committee, we're going to meet sometime over the weekend to review the report. I have sent a copy to the honourable leader of the party, Honourable Alan Shastney, and the first order of business is when he comes down Manfen to meet with him, that is the committee, and discuss the report. But definitely there's some significant changes that we have to make, and persons have to realize that, look, we all are part of a team, and we have strengths and weaknesses, and let's use our strength where it's important. And of course, those of us who are in position and not performing will have to appreciate that, look, in the best interest of the party and St. Lucia, maybe give way to someone that can perform better than me.
Your position as the chairman of the convention committee and the review committee, my information is that it was not ratified by National Council. So where does that put you?
Well, the convention committee is not ratified by National Council, and I spoke to it. I told the executive when I met with them that the convention committee need to be ratified by National Council. I'm seeing that there's a delay in rectifying the convention committee, but it's one step at a time, right? I believe that the party should go to a convention this year, all right, and settle the party as early as possible, and for the convention to determine who it is that they want to lead in the respective positions, right? And that should be done this year. And that's my position. And we don't have time, right? Because like I said, when the Prime Minister said, look at me vexed, I can call elections anytime, I believe him. And there might be situations that will force him to call elections earlier than we think, right?
And they would include what?
The situation with Richard.
But why would he want to call a general election? I'm sorry. Why would he want to call a general election to deal with an issue of that nature, considering the mandate that he currently has? He's
Exactly.
He shouldn't be in search of a greater mandate than 16-1. What, he wants 17-0?
That's what I'm telling you. I said earlier that the SSDF situation, right, and the reason why the Prime Minister would not, or is reluctant, or has not identified an independent committee to do a review of the SSDF, because there might be other persons involved. We saw all the largesse of vote vouchers going around during the campaign. There are things going around saying how much $15 million was paid to a certain supermarket. I'm not going to mention them. Is it true? A lot of allegations going around. So, to deal with Richards, I dealt with Richards as chairman of the party, you know. When we fired him, I was the chairman of the party when we fired Richards. He's not an easy person to deal with. I like him, but when it comes to things like that, it's not easy. You have to dot your I's and cross your T's to do it properly. And it was not easy if we didn't dot our I's and cross our T's to fire him. And he said he resigned. He never resigned. He fired him from the party. In fact, after we fired him, his chairperson took us to court. And the judge said he had no standing to take us to court on that matter. That's why it was thrown out. Right? But Richard never took us to court. So I know what we are dealing with. Right? But the Prime Minister hands a tied team, and all of us know that, and you know it.
Well, I can't reveal it. I don't know. I'm not within the bosom of the SLP.
You know it, right? So one of the escape route for him might be to call general elections. The United Workers' Party not ready. So John did it in 2 elections in 1 month. You forgot? So who said the Prime Minister could call elections in next 3-4 months to send somebody up in Castro Central? I heard him already been bonks around to send somebody up in Castro Central and get rid of Richards once and for all. And Richard should be smart enough to appreciate that the mere fact they came to his house, police came to his house, and if he does not understand that the mere fact police came to his house and they brought him down for questioning, had to be approved by the Prime Minister. Don't tell me the Prime Minister was not aware of that. Right? Don't tell me the Commissioner of Police was not aware of that. When the Commissioner of Police is not going to deny, or he said he's not going to deny or confirm that was done. It had to be approved. So we have some very interesting days ahead, Tim. And I think if the United Workers' Party believes that the demise of the Central Labour Party would be an opportunity for us to win the general elections, I think we're making a mistake. All right? I think we're making a mistake. If you look around the region, all right, where most of the Labour parties have called early elections, snap elections, because of this organized opposition, and they have won handsomely. All right. So I believe that our party needs to put its act together. Our party needs to show that we are the preferred political party, and first to that we have to go to a convention and elect an executive that can go back and reconnect with our base. Our base is divided, and our leader of the opposition said so, right? Our political leader said so, and it's a reality. Let's not run away from it. We cannot, and that's why I'm not most times like, we cannot, and I'm speaking to our base, right? We need to understand that we have gone through election, 2 elections we have lost, with slimmer majorities. That is telling us something, right? That is telling us that people not happy with us, and they're equally not happy with the St. Lucia Labour Party. Because the turnout was even less than the previous elections. So the figures and the realities in front of us, let me not bury our head in the sand. Let's pull our resources together. Let's meet back with our people. Right? I'm talking to our people. Let's come back and get back. Let's put our differences aside. All of us saying, okay, Flobo is the best party for the country. Well, Flobo can't be the best, can't win elections if we're divided the way we are divided. We have to forget our differences. The focus is come together. Honestly express ourselves, respectfully express ourselves, and prepare ourselves, because we have no control as a party as to when an elections can be called. What we have control over is how we organize ourselves.
And of course, in a little bit we'll speak about, if we have sufficient time, or towards the end of the broadcast, about the silting of the John Compton Dam.
Can we do that now?
And the operations of Wasco. You want to do that quickly?
Yeah, can we do that now?
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, I find it strange that as the one who was responsible for the John Compton project, as a minister responsible, no one called me and found out from me what was the true story. Quickly. The true story is what was accomplished was what we were supposed to accomplish. All right? When we came in 2016, there was an allocation approved of $60 million, Tim. Approved in 2014, $60 million to deseal the John Compton Dam, 10% of the John Compton Dam, $60 million. Right? 14.9 from US, from the Caribbean Development Fund, and 20 million EC from the NUC. That's what we formed. When I met with the general manager at the time, he told me they had 2 attempts, failed attempts, at the tendering process. The only thing we did as a government was to remove the desilting and the construction of the sediment disposable area from one project into 2 separate projects. That's the only thing we did that was different. All right? Because we said we wanted to build capacity. And in matter of fact, they had 2 attempts. All right? And both of them failed before we came in. We said, okay, let's handle it that way. And you know what's the final figure? When we left in 2021, the cost to deseal the dam, despite all the challenges of rain, COVID and thing, $53 million. And when I'm hearing that we did not finish desealing, the scope of work to deseal John Compton Dam was 10%, and we accomplished it, and they said so. The John Compton Dam was supposed to be desealed in either 8 to 10 years. And you said something that I agree with you. I'm not blaming management of Wasco. I'm blaming the board. And I'm blaming the line minister at the time. The new line minister just came in. He would not. I'm blaming Stephen King. Right? Because it was his responsibility on the board to continue the desilting. And what we were thinking of, Tim, at the time, is whether we continue to engage Vinci to desilt, or whether we buy a dredge ourselves to desilt the dam. That's what we were thinking of. So we have lost 6 years. 6 years not desilting the dam, because we're not the ones started it. We continue our project. This started.
We have a call on line. Let's take that call.
No problem.
Good evening to you. NewsMaker Live, you're on the air.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening to you, caller.
Mr. Ezechiel, bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Mr. Ezechiel,
Oui.
you know that if the PM were to fire relieve the minister of his portfolio, the Prime Minister cannot fire him as a candidate. He was elected by the people. He won his seat handsomely. He's an independent candidate. So why are you saying that there will be a by-election if the Prime Minister relieves Mr. Fred of his portfolio?
No. Mr. Ezechiel never made that statement. Mr. Joseph never made that statement, caller. So get your facts correct, and maybe you want to call back. But he never made that statement about a by-election. Good evening. NewsMaker Live, on the air.
Good evening, Tim. Good evening, Mr. Joseph.
All right, good evening to you, caller.
Good evening. Mr. Joseph, the Labour Party is very good at playing about ism. So instead of dealing with issues in their camp, they deflect on everybody else. As a woman who is very interested and passionate about issues pertaining to women, especially violence against women, I want you to put my mind at ease and at rest tonight. I would like a clear response from you, a yes or no answer, to put my mind at ease. So I'm not somebody who condones one side and condemns one side, depending on if they're on my team or not. I have one position against violence against women. I want a clear answer from you. The accusations that Janine Compton made against you, yes or no, did it happen or did it not happen?
But I answered that question already. I said no, it never happened.
Okay, that's what I needed to hear from you. Thank you, sir. Have a wonderful night.
And I've forgiven her. I said so.
Okay, thank you so much for calling. We continue with your calls once again for my guest, Mr. Ezechiel Joseph. The telephone number is on screen, 451-9788. We continue the broadcast, Newsmaker Live, right here on DBS television. I think we have lost that call, so we are waiting another call.
So continue John Compton Dam, right? I remembered, and I've heard his name Suku said, we have never done any audit, we have never presented any audit. We as a government had 2 AGMs, all right? Mr. Ben Emmanuel, who was the cabinet secretary at the time, represented the government, because the government is the loan shareholders, and presented our financials to the AGM. I remembered that at the time my board was adamant that they needed an increase. I said, no, I'm not going to support an increase in water. Because when you look at 50 to 60% non-revenue, that's high. And that is why when we were building the highway, I went to the Honorable Prime Minister and I said, Chief, look, one of the areas that we're losing a lot of water is going up that side, up north. I think it's an opportunity time for us, since we are building that road, to replace the pipes. We didn't have the money at the time, team, to buy up the pipes. We asked Fancy, who was doing the Viewfort project. I ain't nothing about the Viewfort projects. I ain't nothing about the Mabia Valley project. It was a John Compton Dam and giving wrong information, right? Fancy agreed to bring on the pipes, and after a while, the Honorable Prime Minister got the resources to pay Fancy for the pipes they brought down for us to lay up north. Where are these pipes? Only now I'm hearing, after how many years, only now I'm hearing that there's a project, considering a project to lead them pipes. Come on.
You have a call? Good evening, Newsmaker Live, you're on the air.
Yeah, Mr. Joseph, good evening to you again.
Yes, good evening to you, caller.
Good evening to you. Mr. Joseph, I was following you when you were speaking about the whole farming thing. And as a young farmer, I kind of was interested in listening to all what you're saying, but administrations go. But you have a chance to make the innocent culture. And I believe that the young lady, Ms. Joseph, she's actually doing a good job. It's not been a yes in elections. And
Ms. Joseph, don't call her Ms. Joseph, sir.
Not Ms. Joseph,
Mr. Jawayer.
Ms. Jawayer, right? It's not been a yes in elections, and she's just taken the ministry. And as you know, you've done your part. I know you, right? My father knows you, right? And you guys are just bashing and all of that, and I think she deserves a chance. And like, it's not a year yet, and I think she definitely deserves a chance, and let's see what she can. And other than that, I think the United Workers' Party has had its time in the sun. It's currently the party. It's like the party of my grandfather, my great-grandfather, and my father. Young people are identifying with the St. Lucia Labour Party right now. It's the party of the young people. That's what they're identifying with right now. And I think if you guys need to rebrand your party, you guys need to do a lot. Bring a whole slate of 17 new candidates and get all these old dinosaurs out. Start afresh, okay? And that's the way I see it, right?
And you'll vote for us. And you'll vote for us.
I don't know, but you might just identify. The young people might gravitate to you guys. But right now, it's a whole bunch of old people just come in and make decisions and come in and talk about this, that, and the third. The young people don't care about that. Understand? The young people don't care about that, and I can tell you that. I'm a young person, and we don't care about what you all are saying. You see that whole Richard Frederick thing you all come in and bring there? That's just smoke and mirrors for the time being. People don't care about that. People care about what's happening with them where they're going to get money in their pocket and all of that. And what you all are doing right now there, we don't care about that. Trust me.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much for calling.
Thanks, no problem.
We have another call. Good evening, NewsMaker Live on the air.
Good evening, team.
Hi, good evening to you, caller.
Yes, good evening to your guest.
Good evening, sir.
I don't agree with the last caller in reference to what's happening on the political scene. I beg to differ. I think we have a slate of St. Lucians throughout the length and breadth of our country who is looking at things very carefully, very keenly, and starting to organize themselves for their own future. So I don't necessarily agree with the gentleman in reference to that. I want to speak to the former minister in reference to the water shortages. It's affecting agriculture in a vast and wide manner. As we have recognized in St. Lucia, we are faced with a serious water shortage problem. And I'm here with the silting of the dam not being taken care of. Yet on our bills, there is a cost for the desilting of the dam that monies are going towards. But we are also seeing that has not been taken care of. We are also seeing that our water levels are going down throughout the length and breadth of our country, and we are also seeing that it is affecting agricultural products and the process of agriculture in St. Lucia. To the minister, what can be done to really help agricultural farmers? And finally, in terms of water resources, and finally, why is the cost of doing business so expensive for a young farmer starting off? What you can advise the government to do for young entrepreneurs, especially young individuals, enter the agriculture, so knowing we can't go wrong if you produce as a farmer in St. Lucia, whether it's livestock as vegetables.
Okay, thank you so much for calling, sir. Call dropped a bit.
Yes, I think I get an idea what he's talking about. What can we do to help the young farmers? I go back to when I was doing my first term as the Minister of Agriculture. When we left, we had a project, a Youth in Agricultural project, funded by the CARICOM Development Fund, grant funding of $3.2 million, Tim. Who is listening? We had identified 5 areas in St. Lucia where the land belongs to the government, and we would have placed farmers in different locations looking at different cropping patterns and giving different support to these farmers. We had interviewed more than 150 farmers, but we had identified about 150 farmers. That was the target we were looking at the time. And the first phase of that project was government lands. And the second phase would have been lands of farmers who are no longer interested in agriculture, and the children no longer interested in agriculture, but the lands are lying idle. At least government would have leased the property from these individuals and have a second phase. What happened to that project? When Musa came in 2011, failed. When I came back, the CARICOM Development Fund was very disappointed because that was a pilot project in St. Lucia. I developed that project based on my experience. So the challenges that young farmers face, and I remember working with the CEDA, finance and good agricultural land, and that is what that project was going to satisfy, that limitation as far as farmers are concerned. All right, young farmers are concerned. Of course, the whole aspect of technology was also critical as it pertains to that project. So, to answer you, my brother, there have been attempts by my government to assist young farmers and to give them the type of resources and financial resources and technical advice to get involved in agriculture. But unfortunately, we never enjoyed the benefit of 2 successive terms. So the break would have caused discontinuation of that project. And when we came back, we found a number of building material, fencing, laying down at Boseju, being stolen by individuals, and we had to try and see how we could resuscitate that project and give support to these individuals.
You have another call. Good evening. NewsMaker Live, you're on the air.
Oh, good night, Tim.
Hi, good evening to you, caller.
Good night, good night.
Mr. Joseph, would you be interested in being running up for the leadership of the United Workers' Party? And if you are not, have you seen somebody else in the party that you believe should take up that mantle? That's my question.
Thanks so much for calling.
My brother, I'm there to work with my party. Leadership and politics, I think I have, when I took the platform in 2006, I said I was going to get involved in politics for 15 years. I did a little more than 15 years. My experience right now is to support the party. So the leadership, I mean, that's not the first time I've heard that. I mean, I've been approached many times. After Sir John passing, I was approached to take over the leadership of the party. At the time, the members did not see the wisdom in giving me that, so I continued to support Honorable King at the time. After Alan and Guy, I supported Alan. So the answer is, I have no inclination to continue the politics. My energy right now is to support my party, to restructure my party, and to bring the base back together. Whatever I can do to do that, I will continue to.
Good evening. NewsMaker Live, you're on the air. Hello. Hello. Good evening to you, caller. Okay, let's that call. Let's see if we have another call coming in. That will be our final call, and then we'll take the final comments from my guest, once again, Mr. Ezechiel Joseph. Final call. Good evening to you. You're on the air. Hello. Good evening to you, caller.
Yes. Good evening, Tim. Good evening to
Good evening to you, sir.
Yeah, good night. Good night.
Yes. So, Tim, I heard an individual who appeared to have had a young voice, claiming that he's a young person, but saying that the young people do not care about what's happening in the country. And that is very unfortunate, coming from a young person. And I think this person should realize that he is speaking for himself, and he needs to understand that he is too young to allow himself to be used as a mule. You know, if he's going to allow people to ride him that way so early in his life, you know, he's not going to have a long life. So he needs to be careful with what he says and understand that the world is listening to him. You know, no young person should feel good about you know, criminality, corruption in the country, stuff like that. So he's not speaking for all of the young people, and he needs to be aware of that and not use the airways to spew this kind of foolishness. That's all I want to leave with him tonight.
All right. Thank you so much for calling, sir. That's it as far as the calls are concerned. Let's take the final comments from you, Mr. Ezechiel Joseph. Final comments.
Well, thank you very much, Tim. I mean, it took some time for me to get an invite to be here. I hope it will not take that long again. I'm open.
It will be very soon, especially as soon as you release the contents of your report.
Yeah, right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the callers who call in. I feel that the discussion tonight was fruitful. I just want to speak to the base of my party, to tell them, look, let's put our differences aside. Let's focus on what we can do, you know, to really prepare our party. Because we have no control as to when elections can be called. We have no control. What we have control over is how we prepare ourselves as a party moving forward. I know we are disappointed after 2 elections, 2 defeats, and the last one was worse than the first one. I understand that, and people would have, you know, be so disappointed that it take a lot to motivate them and to reconnect with them. But the reality is, and you know, and most of St. Lucians know, that we are the preferred political party, and all of us putting our shoulders to the wheel, giving support to the leadership of the party, whoever the leadership would be at the time after the convention, would be to the benefit of St. Lucia, and of course by extension to the benefit of us as a party, and by extension St. Lucia. So my final word is, I want to encourage our supporters to continue to have faith in our party and continue to have faith in what we are doing. I know we are going through a restructuring process. It's going slow, very slowly, slower than I would like it to think. I was hoping that we could have by now identified a date for convention, but that's outside of my responsibility now. Until we get confirmation at National Council, then we can make that determination where the committee can sit down and say, okay, we have been confirmed at National Council, and we can put a schedule together as to how we move forward. And of course, I will come back here at some point in time to inform the public as to the plans and the schedule and what we intend to do. So thank you very much, Tim.
You're welcome, sir.
And thank you very much to our listeners and our callers. Thanks.
Thank you so much for being my guest on this evening's NewsMaker Live. Thanks. And to you, thank you so much for watching and listening. If it's Wednesday, it's NewsMaker Live. Time now for the clip that peaked.
Okay. Okay.
Once again, as a broadcast, thank you so much for watching and listening. My name is Timothy Poleon, saying good night and see you next time.
I, Philip Joseph here.
I would like to be judged as being the Prime Minister, not being judged as being part of a government.
Came into government that we had a manifesto and a vision and mission that had been approved by my party, by the highest body.
Basel 11 has not been in existence. 50 was...
Giant getting bazooka. You're spraying big on to knock out mosquitoes.
I have never had a joint account with anybody in my life. Not my ex-wife, not my children, nobody. And I will refer that to the privileges committee.
What about the culture of people getting into office and not being effective in taking
What people become Prime Minister of St. Lucia have been the most ready.
Let's do it this Wednesday, because if it's Wednesday, it's NewsMaker Live.